gorilla at large. He's in the aisles, in the balcony. He's everywhere. Get out of his way before it's too late.
Misunderstood from the start, labelled as monsters of the forest by early explorers and later Hollywood movies, these largest of the apes are today facing extinction. Deep in the African jungle, this close human relative is clinging to life. Only a few hundred mountain gorillas are surviving in small patches of rainforest that line the volcanic mountains of Rwanda, Congo, and Uganda. I'm in Uganda, trekking through the mountainous jungle terrain alongside the gorilla doctors, who are on a medical mission to save these last great apes.
We surprised a female as she was coming out from feeding, and she just gave us a warning.
As a biologist, I travel the world through some of the toughest terrain, researching animals to better understand their behavior. Now I'm on a mission to find the biggest and baddest creatures on the planet.
I'm Niall McCann, and I'm here on the border between Uganda and the Congo in search of one of the most iconic species on Earth, the mountain gorilla.
For centuries, these Central African jungles have been slow to reveal their secrets, concealing mystery animals known only to local people. Mountain gorillas are a unique subspecies of the gorilla genus. Living at high elevation, their thick fur protects them against cool temperatures and the steady rain that falls onto the mountain slopes. Gorilla troops usually contain one mature male, the silverback, who can weigh 220 kilograms and stand 6 feet or close to 2 meters high. He protects the females and young from predators and other males seeking his mates. Protective charges by silverbacks can be frightening and potentially dangerous, but the work of researcher Diane Fossey in the 1970s allowed us to more fully understand these complex social primates.
Ever since their sensational discovery in the mid-1800s, gorillas have been portrayed as savage and ferocious beasts, culminating in the film King Kong. And the persecution continued unabated as we hunted them for trophies and we kidnapped them for the pet trade and for zoos. And now, in the jungles of Central Africa, little more than 800 mountain gorillas cling to survival in what remains of their habitat. But some people are trying to make a difference. And I've come to Uganda to join the Gorilla Doctors, a team of veterinarians dedicated to securing the future of this most magnificent of animals, the mountain gorilla.
I start my journey down the rural roads leading from Uganda's capital, Kampala, heading west towards the Rwandan border, to the rainforest that is the domain of the mountain gorilla.
I'm on my way to the brilliantly named Bwindi Impenetrable National Park in Uganda. One of my favourite things about driving through all of these villages is that I'm constantly smiling. Everywhere you go, someone wants to say hello.
The warmest welcome anywhere on Earth. Fantastic.
Then I spot something bright green moving across the road.
This is amazing. Go on, little guy. I've probably made it quite clear that I'm a fan of reptiles in general. And it's impossible not to love chameleons.
This is a Johnston's, or three-horned chameleon, unique to Africa.
You can see it's relaxed at the moment, he's just staying nice and green. When they get angry, they change colour, they go a much darker colour to express their displeasure. But I'm just being a part of his environment, I'm not grabbing him, I'm simply letting him walk on me. So he's feeling pretty casual. Fantastic, we'll let him go. And off he goes. What a colour! Absolutely wonderful colour. The reason they do that rocking motion is as camouflage, so it looks more like a leaf or a branch just rocking, much less likely to be seen by a predator.
The road travels through farming areas, rich with volcanic soil. As magnificent as this land is, I'm reminded that the spread of people and agriculture is also impacting the gorillas.
One of the biggest problems facing the mountain gorillas in the two places where they still survive is the fact that the national parks where they remain are essentially islands of forest surrounded by people and agriculture. Nowhere is this more stark than right here. If you look behind me, you can see the line of forest as it extends from down there, going up the mountain and over the top. On that side is forests and gorillas, and on this side it's just agriculture and many, many people.
I've got several more hours to go on this very mountainous jungle road. Meeting oncoming traffic here is always a challenge.
Hello.
The land is surrounded by tea plantations, an industry started by the British in the early 20th century. They called Uganda the Pearl of Africa. I meet up with Dr. Jan Raymer and the other gorilla doctors at the inn where Diane Fossey stayed during her escape from a war in the Congo in the 1960s. Joining Dr. Raymer is Communications Officer Jessica Burbridge and Regional Vet Fred Naziyamana.
So in 1985, right before Diane Fossey died, she was seeing gorillas, dying in snares and from human-induced trauma. And she said there needs to be a veterinarian there. Just a couple of months after, in 1986, the first gorilla doctor came over. His name was Jim Foster. And he set up a little clinic. And since then, it's been almost 30 years and it's grown into an international team of vets. There's 14 vets that are working in the 3 countries.
It's the greatest thing. It's the greatest thing ever. I mean, that's why we're here, is to help these animals. And when we can do an intervention and save a life, it's the greatest feeling. It really is.
After my veterinary school, I always felt I needed to do something positive towards gorilla conservation.
First up is a health check on a gorilla troop several hours away in Rushaga, where people have been living side by side with gorillas for decades.
So they'll go and find another group and they'll raid and they'll capture a female.
Today I'm trekking with local guide David and Dr. Fred. It's a climb of more than 1,000 meters through communal farmland and into the domain of the Rushaga gorilla group. To locate them, we must depend on up-to-date information provided by an advanced group of trackers.
So when we get to the top of the hill, the trackers will be able to hear us much better.
Haya, sasa waendelea. Hawa iko chini kwa bonda ama iko juu kidogo kwa mlima?
Yeah, I didn't quite understand all of that.
I have just talked with the trackers. We have always got trackers, they go very early in the morning to locate these animals from the point where we left them the day before.
And how are they getting on?
But as I talked with them now, they say they are still following yesterday's tracks and they are getting close to where they expect them to have nested.
Okay.
Yes.
So then from there we'll find out what direction they've gone today.
Yes.
This is sensational.
We leave the last of the farmland behind and head towards the deep jungle.
This jungle is one of the most spectacular I've ever seen. And I've spent a long time in the jungles of Central and South America and Southeast Asia and Australasia, and yet I can say that nothing surpasses this.
Then, right at the border of the national park, a group of gold miners eke out an existence.
Do they have an amalgam like mercury, or is it all just panned?
I think it's fun.
Mercury would be a bad thing.
While this is small scale, other oil and mining projects are threatening the delicate rainforest ecosystems of Central Africa.
It's been a pretty amazing walk-in so far. They're not called mountain gorillas without reason. We've been climbing and descending and traversing across incredibly steep terrain, which is the last places where these gorillas survive, really. Anywhere in the lower lands are just filled with agricultural people. And of course, where people and animals coexist, animals tend to lose out.
So what David was just saying was that we were going to have to climb that hill, because that's where the gorillas were this morning. But the trackers have reported that they're starting to come down the hill towards this valley. This salad bowl is filled with amazing food for them.
Briefly, the point where we are is going to be our preparation point. In case of anything like charging, running is not the best option. You are all advisable to stay and feel submissive. So you are advisable to stay still.
Early explorers did not heed this warning and were terrified when silverbacks defending their troops charged them, even bending rifle barrels in half, adding to the monster myth.
My goodness, there they are.
Finally, the gorillas have been located, in dense vegetation on a very steep slope. I'm 2,000 meters up a mountainside in Uganda, and we've just reached a group of gorillas that need to be inspected for illness or injuries by the gorilla doctors.
That one's nearly 60 feet in the canopy, indicates it's got to be well, it's got to be in a healthy state.
Yes, it is. We can't even appreciate it from a distance. You look at the size of the stomach.
Yeah, it's distended.
Yes, the movement of the limbs.
So we have one just here as well. And again, first thing you notice is the bloated nature of the belly. Gorillas, being obligate herbivores, have to eat just a vast amount of food every day, up to 20 kilos. And there's a lot of fermentation going on inside there. Hence, there's often a little sound in the background, a little trump.
With all the females around, we know the big silverback must be nearby.
The silverback is there. And he's absolutely enormous. This one is known for being a very successful predator on other groups. So he will raid other groups and steal their females. But he will raid by himself, even if the other group has 3 males. He's big, he's very strong, and he's got incredible bravado. A month ago, he stole a new female. So his group is now up to 9, and he looks very well indeed. Wow. That was an amazing sound.
Just let the members know that I'm around.
Okay.
All is fine.
Yeah. He's on the move. He's just strolled forwards. The reason we're keeping this distance is because we carry all kinds of diseases, even when we don't realise it. The types of diseases that gorillas are simply not capable of defending themselves against. They just don't have the immune system for our diseases. So this is why it is enforced to try and stay about 7 meters away from them, to minimise the chance of us either catching a disease from them or giving a disease to them. Where this becomes much more complicated is when gorillas come into contact with agricultural people around here. Then we have a real situation whereby agricultural animals, domestic animals, can transmit diseases to and from the gorillas. A large female there, a baby here, and the silverback there. One of the animals most historically feared by people. And yet, look at this. This is peace-defying, it really is. They have been vilified for all time, persecuted, almost to the point of extinction. Now, just a tiny population left. The work of the gorilla doctors, of Fred, Jan, the rest of the team, is absolutely critical in ensuring the survival of one of our closest relatives, one of the most iconic species on Earth. The way we have treated them through history is abhorrent, diabolical, I'm so glad that now there is sufficient incentive to change, to repair some of the damage we did, to try and guarantee their survival.
It's very healthy. They are feeding normally. The big berries, they are feeding enough. That sound tells it all. They are comfortable. They are getting it all. They don't feel threatened by our presence.
I have to be careful not to get too close to the baby. The silverback is just a few meters away and could charge.
There's a baby gorilla just behind me, and the silverback just down there. Silverbacks and all the other gorillas in the family will defend the babies with their lives. So when European zoos and other people have come in to try and steal baby gorillas to sell to the pet trade or to sell into zoos, almost the whole family has had to be slaughtered because they will defend them with their lives. It belongs here and not in someone's home and not in a zoo. Finally, I hope we're learning that gorillas belong in the wild.
Next day, I head out to visit some nearby villages who have a long history of living next to and among gorillas. In the past, some encounters with local farmers and hunters did not end well for the gorillas. And I wanted to find out if attitudes are changing since the creation of the park in the early 1990s. For the young, gorilla ecotourism brings money. This elder remembers when his people had a different view.
And when they met the gorillas, was it always a friendly interaction?
That when they met them in the forest, they used to think that there was a person in the forest, and they used to give them distance, not going to close to them.
So they used to think it was a lost person in the forest? Is it bad luck to meet?
Bad luck.
They thought it was bad luck to meet a gorilla.
Yeah.
These dances, put on for tourists visiting the gorillas, help the community by providing funds for the care and schooling of village orphans.
It's absolutely outstanding. They've obviously really just adopted the spirit of the gorillas into their community. The kids have a wildlife club where they learn about gorillas, and here they are dancing the gorilla dance. It's just somehow become this figure of, I don't know, collectiveness within the community, whereas they used to be seen obviously as a fearful figure, a figure of some form of bad luck. When they went into the forest, if they saw them, they would be terrified, whereas now clearly that's not the case. Clearly they revel in the fact that they have these incredible animals right here on their doorstep.
Our next gorilla encounter proves to be much closer to home. And fresh wounds on a male tell us a marauding silverback is on the loose.
Three there.
Day 2, and we're told the gorillas are on the move and close to the communities. Dr. Fred, Dr. Jan and Jessica join me to locate the wandering gorilla troop.
There we are, shaking a tree just there. Just at 10 o'clock. Spotted one shaking a tree. There, 10 yards from the hut. It's insanity. Like, there's the national park. But all of this stuff, the secondary growth, is so rich in nutrients, so tasty. Jan's just described it as a gorilla salad bowl. Very good description. There's a gorilla, amazingly, right here. But as Jan said, it's eating bamboo, which has been planted by people. One of the things they're trying to do with local communities is to encourage them to plant the types of plants that gorillas simply don't like in the buffer zone.
Right here we are with blackback Karembezi. At the moment he's comfortably feeding. One good thing to note, as a habituated gorilla, he's already aware of our presence, but he's not disturbed.
He's behaving normally, and that's what we like to see.
Well, here is a perfect example of the problem we're facing. Here's a gorilla strolling along a man-made path and helping himself to the plants that people have planted. You can't blame the gorillas. They're here to get some good food. They're here to get nourishment, and there's fantastic nourishment in these plants here. It just brings them into conflict with people. And one of the big problems is that people carry diseases that gorillas are, I suppose, physiologically naive to, medically naive to. They haven't come across the types of viruses that we carry.
On our data sheet, we record everything that we can. So if we don't see locomotion, we saw everything else, but we didn't see locomotion. And then that goes into a computer program, spits out a report at the end of the month, which helps us understand disease, injury, and the progression of that in those animals.
Oh, there's a baby. Awesome. That was a little gorilla baby, which was absolutely amazing, and massively fat stomach, hugely distended. Gorillas are herbivores. You wouldn't imagine it from pictures of gorillas you see with massive great canines and looking incredibly aggressive, but they're basically obligatory herbivores. They only really eat vegetation. It's very difficult to get much nutrients out of a leaf or out of a stem or something like that, so they just have to eat constantly. They eat up to 20 kilograms of vegetation a day. That's a huge, huge amount. It's hard for a human being to eat a kilo of food a day. I've tried, it's really difficult.
Oh, there's babies playing up here. Look.
Yes. They've just got such amazing comical looks on their faces.
Yeah.
They're just having a brilliant time. I love wrestling. This is all obviously immensely fun for them, but it serves a really useful purpose as well. It prepares them for real battles when they're much older, when these young male baby gorillas are going to be fighting for their own groups. It's looked like a bit of playtime, and it is, but it's preparing them for life as an adult.
Jan spots a large male blackback with a wound.
See the scar on his back? Big wound. It's healed really well. It's apparently 1 week old. It must have been very sore when it happened. He's a blackback, sub-adult male. So every now and then he's just going to be beaten up by the big silverback. It's going to happen. Life is tough as a gorilla. This playtime is preparing them for a life of battling for their own group. And sometimes they get seriously injured. I just spoke to Jan. She said that, according to Fred, the silverback that attacked the blackback we've just seen, the one with the big scar, was the same silverback that attacked one of the groups up in the mountain. It's obviously a marauding lone silverback. He's maybe trying to steal females to start his own group. It's just something they do. They come into existing groups. They beat everyone up and they try and steal females for themselves, set themselves up as a harem leader.
Then behind us, I notice 2 sub-adult gorillas feeding. The female wants to get by us. She's cautious, as we are. Even though weighing half as much as a silverback, she's still many times stronger than a man. Reassuring gorilla feeding grunts are given. Then the male also decides to walk up to us. He's getting very close.
So as the male walked past, just as he was about to go, gave a little nudge towards Fred, which, as Fred has just explained, was playful. If he was aggressive, you would have noticed it in his face and in his demeanour. It was just a little nudge, just to say, hello, have a little look at this. And these gorillas actually identify people individually. They know the trackers who work with them every single day. and they see the trackers as their friends. So when we are with the trackers, that means the gorillas are relaxed because they know that their friends are here. They know they're not under any form of threat whatsoever. So what just happened there was we surprised a female as she was coming out from feeding, and we're very close. We're probably about 6-7 meters away from her, and she just gave us a warning. You could hear it, you could see it on her face. That was a real warning. That wasn't playful. That was, you've overstepped the mark. It was our fault. We snuck up on her by accident. But what's remarkable that Jan has just pointed out, that the gorillas are walking around on an official walk as a part of one of the lodges here. We're on the River Loop walk. People could be sitting having a pina colada in there, not knowing that there's a group of 15 gorillas 20 meters away from them.
We always go around. We never enter the group. We trail the group or we go around the group. They're right in the lodge now.
To avoid a potential confrontation, I step back to give this blackback male some space.
There's 3 there. It's a blackback, it's a young male gorilla. One day he will be the leader of his own group. Probably already weighs about 120 kilos. It's ridiculous. Look at the strength in his lats. It's very relaxed, just casually feeding with his back to us. Amazing how calm they are. But they know we don't mean them any harm. We're here with the doctors, and we're here with their trackers. And they associate very positively with those guys.
Yeah, I think we can stop from here because the group is like going further and further towards the people.
There's a community just there as well.
Yeah, the community people. They may even go beyond this bush to avoid risks of disease transmission and stress.
So will the trackers now encourage the gorillas to go back towards the forest?
Yeah, sure. The trackers will begin now chasing them, pushing them back to their habitat, to the forest.
We have trained the trackers on the best way to handle that of pushing the gorillas back to the forest.
It's passively, presumably.
It's passive.
It's been an amazing experience. Obviously, I've witnessed some of the things I never thought I'd have the privilege to see. But it's just been made all the more pertinent by the fact that we are here in a tourist lodge. There's a sign for a massage just down there, and a gorilla walks straight past it, and there's a tourist just wandered up there. It shows the real problem that's happening here. It's human-animal conflict, and the gorillas are the losers.
Next, I get an ape's eye view of the park, and news of the marauding silverback comes in. He's injured another silverback, and the team springs into action. Back at the park, we're waiting for any emergency health reports from trackers in gorilla territory.
And I'm going to try and climb this tree to get a bit of a view over the park. It's one of the most remarkable national parks left in Africa, one of only 2 places where the mountain gorillas still survive. What better way to have a look at the park and view what remains of the gorilla's habitat than by getting high up into the canopy? Too high. Yeah! Yeah, fair way up a tree here, and I've got a view over the valley on the far side. So the proximity of these groups of gorillas which live all around me to those massive communities of people that live just over there is genuinely a concern, and something that the gorilla doctors are really working hard to try and mitigate against. Now, the gorillas in most parts of their habitat, i.e. Rwanda and Congo, don't really climb trees, but here they seem to. For whatever reason, there must be good food up here, or potentially protection against ground-based predators such as leopards. But being up here, it's ape's eye view, and also gives me an opportunity to really appreciate just the absolute wonders of Bwindi Impenetrable National Park.
Back at the lodge, it's day 3 of assessing the health of local mountain gorillas, when we receive word of an attack on a silverback.
We can see if that one's available.
I received a call from the warden in charge of tourism. He just informed me about an injured silverback of Mobare group.
They can survive terrible lacerations with nothing, but we just need to go and see and assess.
Suddenly, Fred receives his phone call, and action stations, baby. We're off. So, better go pack my stuff away. When I came to Uganda to meet the gorilla doctors, I knew about the work that they did. I knew that they performed medical interventions, but I never imagined that I would get to see one myself. And yet we have just received a phone call that a rogue silverback gorilla has raided another group to try and steal some females, and has attacked the resident silverback, who has suffered the types of injuries that certainly require an assessment and potentially even a medical intervention.
It's been many hours since the injured gorilla was seen, and so the trackers have to find the group again. This could take several hours of searching at an elevation of 2,000 meters.
Bwindi National Park is up to about 6,000 feet in height, which adds a bit of a different element to the work in here. It means it's not quite as hot as you would be lower down, but it also means that the atmosphere is slightly rarefied, so you have to work a little bit harder to get oxygen to your lungs. We met the rangers at 8 o'clock this morning, and we have hiked from about 1,500 meters above sea level to about 2,000 meters above sea level now, but the trackers still haven't been able to find them.
14 Alpha 1. Nani huyo? Bwana eta wewe kapotea habari au? Niko hapa kwa juu ya mlima. Kutoka kwa Sinyanza ya pera hapo. The other trackers, they said they were following a fresh trail, and they say the group is like facing this side.
Oh, so they're coming this direction?
Yeah.
Based on the latest sightings, we continue our search to find the injured silverback, across rugged mountains and then even higher.
The gorillas don't just follow paths. The gorillas are going where they want to go. And the tracker's job is to locate where the gorillas spent the previous night. This is all flattened by gorillas, all of this. Sometimes the gorillas will move several kilometers in a day, so the trackers have an incredibly difficult job.
It's the 5-minute call, so we'll see what's happening. They always sound incredibly excited. So what we're having to do is follow this path as far as we possibly can, so then we have the shortest distance to wherever they are. And they'll be anywhere, they're gorillas, they do what they want. And this group of gorillas are not only wandering around feeding, but they're trying to evade a marauding other silverback or other group as well. So even harder to find than normal.
Kawaida. No. Magejmo. Leka tubanze twabuga kashe tubone kwakora. I've been communicating to the trackers. They said we branch this way, and I'm not picking them on when they communicate.
Because we're down in a dip.
Yeah, by mouth, but they are saying when you get to the top of this, we shall use another way of communication.
A whistle?
Not using a radio, not using a phone, but using the mouth.
Okay.
To get the right direction. Because the radio is off and on, off and on.
Are they with
But this is the trail.
Are they with the gorillas now?
They are with the gorillas. Yeah.
Let's go, mate.
Okay.
They've come back round this way. So yeah, the gorillas went up that way, and then they swung round. That's where they are now. And now we are bushwhacking.
We're moving diagonally across a steep mountain slope covered in thick jungle vegetation. And we've lost radio contact with the trackers.
There they are. We're getting close enough that we can now hear them within 150 metres. We've suddenly broken out of the dense canopy into this incredible caldera of low shrubs and tree ferns, ancient tree ferns, one of the oldest plants on Earth. That's exactly where the gorillas are. They're down here, surrounded by just the absolute glory of the African jungle.
This group of gorillas that was attacked is essentially fleeing from the marauding silverback that attacked them. And as a result, they are proving incredibly difficult to find.
Just up there.
Just one last push up this hill. We found the trackers, and we hope the injured silverback and his group.
The trackers are here.
Exactly as we thought. So the trackers were tracking a wild group, which just kept on going. Then late in the afternoon they realised, doubled back. And now, 4:15 in the afternoon, we finally caught up with them. These guys caught up with the gorillas. Impressive work.
This is not ordinary day tourist tracking. Our main focus is on the injured silverback. We want to go in first to do an initial assessment. After the assessment,
As Fred is briefing us, I notice a movement behind him.
come up.
Incredibly, it's the injured silverback come to pay us a visit. I'm up a mountain in Uganda's Bwindi National Park with the gorilla doctors when Kanyonyi, the injured silverback we've been looking for, suddenly appears. We move carefully and speak quietly, not to startle the 180-kilogram, 400-pound giant, and to get into position to photograph and assess his wounds. He's approached within a few meters of us, and we don't want him to feel threatened and possibly charge. So the team makes reassuring gorilla feeding sounds to keep him calm.
Right temple. Right around, very deep.
Immediately, we spot some deep wounds.
Over, but there's flies.
He has a laceration here on his arm, but he's alert, he's responsive, he's eating, he's moving.
This is one of the rarest animals on Earth.
Left wrist.
It's one of our closest relatives.
Right wrist, right shoulder, right arm.
And at the moment, it's an injured silverback.
Left wrist as well.
They have been written about and filmed as being violent and aggressive. And yet look at him. He's sat within 3 meters of us.
Do you see his wrist?
It seems like he wants to show us his wounds. He has a cut on his temple.
Here, he's very deep.
On his shoulder and deep on his wrist. It's making relaxing sounds. Is that a picture of violence or is that a picture of peace?
So he's got here.
Jess has just got a couple of photographs of the injuries on his wrist. Very, very deep. He was really beaten up.
Worried about his right hand. Did you see that?
Yeah. Well, his left hand has some laceration, but the right hand was the one he was limping on.
Yeah, left hand I'm not too worried about. It's pretty deep. Is would be more comfortable if he had antibiotics, but I don't know if we have time. What do you think? I would be comfortable to give a shot of antibiotics. Looking at his right hand. It's serious. It's serious. Yeah. Tissue that I don't. I agree.
So we're trying to photograph the wounds so that Jan can make a good call about whether or not to intervene. And they want to intervene, but partial intervention. So that means
I haven't seen his back.
antibiotics, but no anaesthetic.
The other thing we want to do is make sure we assess him completely before we dart, because once we dart, he's out of here.
Yeah.
We'd like to see his back. We'd like to see his legs.
Yeah. Okay.
So please. So we'll go behind. Okay. We're going to move to go behind to try and see him from behind.
So we're going to move around the back and just make sure that he isn't badly hurt behind. Oh, here he comes.
Everyone close by maintains a submissive posture to keep the huge silverback calm.
After you, Jess.
We'd like to take a shot as soon as we can.
Yeah, of course.
As soon as we do, everybody's going to run.
That's fine. So they're going to go and prepare the dart gun with some antibiotics because the wound on his wrist seems to be getting necrotic. We've taken photographs of the wound on his face, his shoulder, and they all look fine. But the one on his wrist, the flies were around it and it was going a funny colour. So they're going to dart him with antibiotics and then the gorillas will go. We're here to try and make sure that there's any of these left. It's mind-blowing being next to an animal like that I've dreamed of my entire life. And you see images of them being like savage, domineering, violent beasts. He walked to us, lay down, and chewed on a leaf. That is a picture of peace. Their betrayal is completely unjust and must have contributed to their demise.
I think it would be better we'll just drop the...
To treat a badly injured silverback, the vets prepare the dart system that will deliver the antibiotic.
So Jan's just charged the dart so that the antibiotics in the solution is right up the tip of the dart, so when it hits the gorilla, it's all going to go into him.
It could get dicey,
Of course.
but hopefully he'll just run away. But you never know.
Brace yourself.
Yeah.
So it knows what the gun is. It doesn't like the gun, so we have to keep it hidden. And what will be, will be.
Everybody knows that if he charges, you should stand your ground and try not to pee your pants.
Noted. It's never happened before, but there's a first time for everything.
Dr. Fred charges the dart gun. A female gorilla watches nearby.
Fred's just going to check whether he's got a shot. The gorillas are just down there.
It's the injured silverback.
No. Down?
So they shot the gorilla from a distance of about 4 or 5 meters, and the dart hit his back and just bounced straight out, which means the antibiotic will have just sprayed over his back, won't have gone into the muscle, which is where it needs to go in to have its effect. And he just turned around nonchalantly, shrugged his shoulders and strolled off. So Jan has just sent back to get the porters to bring down a replacement. Fred has another dart, but that has anti-inflammatory. And the important thing here is the antibiotic, because of that necrotic wound on his wrist.
But the silverback has moved deeper into the underbrush, and we've got to find him to administer the medicine before sunset, or risk being stuck in this mountainous jungle terrain after dark.
They're just trying to locate him.
He's close. The dart is kept hidden from view. Searching for the silverback, we come across a female who warns us about moving too far into her space. Then we find the silverback, and he's relaxed. Time for Fred to take his shot. It's a perfect hit.
It went in. So they've just retrieved the dart and the sleeve has come back, so they know it's gone in, which means they know the antibiotics are in him, which means he's gonna be all right.
From my research, and now from my experience here in Uganda, it's clear that gorilla life, much as human life, is fraught with the threat of intergroup violence. But that unlike humans, for gorillas the violence stops there. And their treatment of us, despite the way that we have treated them throughout the generations, is of moderation and tolerance. But finally the tide is turning, and groups such as the Gorilla Doctors can perform their life-saving work with the full support of the communities that surround the protected areas of Bwindi and the Virungas, where the last populations of mountain gorillas can still be found. And the work that they are doing is absolutely critical. They're saving a species, one gorilla at a time.
Since my visit, Kanyonyi the silverback recovered from his wounds and has expanded his family to 10 individuals.